A short while ago in an ELMS online championship race in Le Mans Ultimate, the legend that is Jardier gave a rather nice compliment about myself and posed this question.
Late move from Yorkie! Mate, Yorkie got so much better. I can't believe how Yorkie improved. Mate, Yorkie went from like midfield, back of the field ACC. He's like really, like this game either suit him or he improved so much. Yorkie, what is your sauce? Can you give it to my chat? What is your sauce? How did you improve so much, mate?
Well, in this video, we're going to answer that question and reveal some of that secret sauce. First though, I want to make a shout out and a thank you to all the members here on the channel, the pit crew. Your generosity and support on the channel is very much appreciated. Aside from plenty of practice and figuring out how to set up cars in Le Mans Ultimate, I've been using various different pieces of tools and software in order to help improve my lap times. The majority of these are also applicable outside of Le Mans Ultimate in other racing sims, and all of them are free to use. However, some of these pieces of software and some of these tools do have additional features and functionality that are often locked behind paywalls, so it may benefit for you to explore upgrading to those options. Now we're going to go through these in an order that begins with practice, going through to the actual event itself, and then some tools and software that you can use even after the event to take a look at how well you did and see what further improvements you can make for the future. The first tool is this very platform that you are watching this video on. Yes, that is YouTube. Now it may sound a little bit basic, but hear me out here, because YouTube is a great resource to look at various different video tutorials from how to set up your car, how to drive certain cars around certain tracks. There's track guide videos that are of course very useful, and in the absence of those, when a new circuit comes out, such as the Racelab International Circuit when that was released as DLC, Le Mans Ultimate, I went and looked at real world onboards to see how drivers in Formula 1 and WEC were approaching the circuit and giving me some base level information and knowledge there to then go ahead into my first practice sessions. As well as that, I use YouTube as well as other streaming platforms such as Twitch to watch other players actually participate in the same event that I'm planning on doing in an earlier time slot. From this, I can gather various pieces of information such as the pace of the leaders, what sort of pace I should be targeting, the sort of strategy that players are using, and getting a bit of an idea for the conditions in the race, whether it's going to start raining, whether it's started raining at the beginning and is then going to dry up, roughly when those changes are going to be happening, how quickly, and all that sort of thing. Yes, there is of course variance built into Le Mans Ultimate, so it's not going to be the same in every single race and race split. However, it does help give me a little bit of a baseline as to what sort of conditions to be expecting and what I need to prepare for ahead of event, and what sort of things I need to be practicing in order to be event ready. So as you're here already, you might as well start using YouTube in a more resourceful way and utilizing the abundance of information that is available here on the platform. Just make sure though that you do that after you finish watching this video, and of course also return on Monday and Thursday evenings at 7 PM UK time, because I live stream here on the channel covering the various different races that I participate in, and it'd be cool to have you come along and join in the chat and continue to support the channel. It'll be very much appreciated. The second tool that I'd recommend using is a website called Ultimate Setup Hub. Predominantly, this is a website for sharing free setups with members of the Le Mans Ultimate community. That's right, all the setups that you see here on this website you can download and use for free. You do not have to pay a single penny to download and use them at all. As you can see, there's a list of various different setups that have been uploaded here. These are in the latest order that they've been uploaded to. There's multiple pages of these, various different pieces of information. You can also use this filters option here at the top to look for specific car and track setup options. So for example, if I wanted to find a setup for Le Mans, go ahead and select the wet layout, and it will filter all the setups that are available for that. And I can even go further and say I wanted a setup for the Aston Martin GT3 car, go ahead and select that, and boom, there is a setup there ready to go. You can click on it, find out various different pieces of information, such as the layout, the sort of conditions, what sort of setup it is, as well as the description, and an estimated lap time of what should be achievable with that setup. You can download it via clicking the button here. Then all you'll need to do is copy and paste the setup to where you've installed Le Mans Ultimate in your Steam folder. So for instance through here, Program, Steam Apps, Common, Le Mans Ultimate, go into User Data, then go to Player, Settings, and then the track that you need to put the setup into, go ahead, copy and paste it into here, then fire up the game and the setup will be in there ready for you to use and get practicing with. Now, as these are setups created and uploaded by the community, you may find that some combinations of cars and tracks will have a number of different setups, and as you can see, various different pieces of information are included here, such as the number of downloads, the rating that setup has, as well as the ability to be able to watch a YouTube video of someone setting a lap time with that specific setup. But there may be instances where some cars and track combinations don't have any setups uploaded to them at all. As more people use this site and are willing to upload their setups, obviously these sort of combinations will get populated over time. And if you want to upload a setup, all you need to do is log in with your Discord, then go into upload setup. You can then choose a specific car and track combination as well as the layout. You can click to upload or drag and drop the actual setup file into this box here. You can then add the lap time that you set with this setup, choose the setup type, whether it's a hot lap, sprint or endurance focused setup, enter in also the conditions, and as well as enter a description to the setup, whether it's specifically race focused for certain conditions or whether you want to suggest various different changes that you can make to make the setup feel safer or a little bit more aggressive. And then also add a YouTube video link to go with the setup as well, so people can see you setting a lap time with that specific setup. And then of course just hit the upload button and it will then get added to the setups list. As you can see, I use this website as well, and I upload my setups that I use in my races here onto Ultimate Setup Hub, so you can download and use those for free as well. But that's not all that this website has to offer. Say you've gone ahead and downloaded a setup, or you have your own setup and you're struggling with a particular area of the car. You can go ahead into the Race Engineer tab and you can identify the specific area that you are struggling with. Say for instance you're getting oversteer in the middle of a corner in high-speed turns. It'll then give you an overview of the various different parameters of the car setup that you can change and in which direction you need to go in with those changes in order to improve that specific car handling behavior. There's all sorts of various different things that are covered here, as you can see, from straight line speed, bottoming out, going over bumps. You can find all the parameters and various bits of detail to help improve that specific area of the car setup that you're trying to help resolve. A very, very useful tool for those who are just starting getting used to tinkering with car setups and don't have a huge amount of knowledge about them. The final thing that I wanted to show here on this website is the pit stop calculator, and I use this for every single race that I go into. Now I'll include linked up above a detailed video showcasing the pit stop calculator with all of its features, functionality and how best to utilize it. But for a quick high level overview here, we've got two main options to select, whether we're in the hypercar class or LMGT3 class, because they use virtual energy, and then the LMP2, LMP3 and GTE class, which don't use virtual energy and it's purely based off of fuel and the fuel tank capacity. You can enter in the details here. But let's say we are in the LMGT3 class. We're doing an hour and 40-minute race. So we're going to be doing this, say, at Spa, which is a 2-minute, they're roughly about 2-minute 90 and 2-minute 20 sort of lap times. So let's go 2-minute 20. This needs to be the lap time of the leader in your car class that they're going to be achieving, and roughly the average sort of lap time. Then go and enter in the fuel usage. So let's just say we're using 4.1 litres per lap and we're using 4.7% virtual energy per lap. We are not going to be changing tyres during the pit stop, and then there's an option here to ignore the safe lap as well. Hit calculate and then we'll be presented with a number of different strategies that we can use for this race, from fuel saving strategies through to completely flat out, and then a tank maximizer fuel saving strategy here as well. So we've got 3 strategies that have been presented to us based off the parameters that we input here at the top, and it gives you the recommended strategy here at the top as well, giving you bits of information as to why this strategy is going to be recommended when it is a fuel saving strategy. As you can see, this fuel saving lap saves us basically a 2-lap splash and dash at the end, which will be vital in terms of potentially gaining positions over other drivers who are not as prepared as you are and don't know what the race strategy is going into the race. Or it could end up saving you from the scenario of you having to make the splash and dash at the end because you are unprepared, not knowing what the strategy is or the optimal strategy is for that specific race. But Ultimate Setup Hub, a fantastic website. If you're not using it already, get on it, get started using it today. Just make sure that with the setups, if you're uploading any setups here onto the website, that they are created by yourself. They are original from yourself or other members from the community who have used this website. Do not be uploading paid setups from Go Setups, Hymo, Coach Dave Delta. Don't do that. That's a big no-no for this website. So just make sure that they are your own, or you do have the permission from the original setup creator to upload them here to Ultimate Setup Hub. The next tool that I'm going to recommend is going to be Track Titan. And for full disclaimer, this is the one and only tool or piece of software here in this video that I have an affiliation with. Track Titan's a telemetry tool that allows you to go in and take a look at your lap times and decipher where exactly it is that you're losing or gaining time in reference to other drivers. This tool has been instrumental in helping me find those last few tenths of a second per lap. Once I've got comfortable around the circuit, got comfortable with the car and the car setup, I dive into Track Titan to find those last few extra tenths. Using the various different telemetry traces when comparing to another lap time, you can see when it is that you're braking too early, whether you're braking too hard, not getting on throttle early enough, not carrying enough speed through the corner, or using the wrong gear entirely. The tool uses AI to help identify those specific areas, which is especially useful for those who are new to reading into telemetry data. And quite often, after looking after the telemetry data here, I can go back into the practice session and actually go and improve my lap time by another couple of tenths. I have already featured a video here on the channel going into the detail as to how to use Track Titan. I'll leave a link in the video card up in the top right hand corner here, as well as down in the description down below to that video if you fancy checking it out. Also down in the description below is my Track Titan referral link, which clicking on that and signing up to Track Titan will get me a small commission when you upgrade to one of their paid subscription packages. And make sure to use my discount code when signing up to Track Titan. That is Yorkie in all caps to get 30% discount on your first paid month and unlimited laps for your first free month. So we've talked about 3 tools that we use during practice and in preparation ahead of an event, but let's now actually talk about 2 tools that I use for the actual event and racing itself. That is Tiny Pedal and Racelabs. Now, if you've seen some of my recent live streams or races, you may have seen some of these elements already from Racelabs and Tiny Pedal. Let's start off with Tiny Pedal first. Up underneath the rear view mirror at the top of the screen, we've got a value of 24.6. That is the track temperature. And then alongside that, we have the ambient temperature indicated in brackets, currently reading 24.0 degrees C. Alongside that is a little grey dot that will change to a green downwards arrow to indicate that the temperatures are falling, or a red upwards arrow to indicate that they are increasing. Alongside that, we have the percentage of rainfall. And then alongside that again is the wetness percentage of the circuit. So as you can see, 0% wetness, the track is currently dry. However, if it was raining, it would then change to a wetness value that would increase or decrease as the track wetness increases and decreases. The arrows are also there representing the increase and decrease in the amount of rainfall and wetness as well, just like we can see that the track temperature is now just dropped down to 24.3 degrees Celsius. Down in the bottom left hand corner alongside the relative and the multifunction display, we see 3 boxes that indicate the current and upcoming weather conditions. Now there can be up to 4 or 5 different elements down here showcasing the various different weather conditions across the race, which is very useful, keeping an eye out for when wet weather is coming, or if it's a wet race when it is going to start drying out, and therefore being able to prepare strategies and pit stops around that. Now, over on the right hand side is the final element that I'm running from Tiny Pedal, and it is just above the tyre temperature, brake temperature and car damage status indicator there alongside the tacho. You can see a box that is flashing grey and blue with R8 in it, and then a positive and minus number that is fluctuating up and down, and the value that is there in the brackets. That is indicating the amount of rake that is in the car. And then the numbers below that are fluctuating up and down with the green bars. There's 4 numbers there and 4 green bars that are moving. Those are indicating the ride heights on each of the 4 corners of the car. Now, this isn't the most useful of things in the race, however, it's been very, very useful for the actual practice sessions in getting the car set up into the right sort of window, making sure that the ride heights are good, are not bottoming out on the straights. We're getting a nice flat profile in the car to try and maximise the top speed on the longer straights. And then when it comes to the corners, we're not running too much rake, or the rear of the car is sitting too high, that we're losing downforce and not getting the grip that we want in the higher speed turns. Likewise, we don't have too much when we're going into the slower speed corners, and that the car is over rotating. All that sort of information has been pretty useful to use in the practice sessions, so just keep it there in the race, so you ladies and gents who are watching the live streams and watching these videos can actually see the kind of the raw rake and ride height settings that the car is actually running with the setup. And from that, you should be able to get a little bit of an idea and direction as to what you should be trying to aim for and trying to achieve when working on your own car setups. Now, up in the top right hand corner between the rear view mirror and the current lap and lap time information, we have our first Racelab's apps element, which is their track map. I just prefer this one over the standard one that is on the normal in-game HUD. It provides a bit more information in terms of numbering the actual corners. I can see the various different car classes and their positions a fair bit clearer, as I'm actually able to resize this element and get it to a size that I am happy with in comparison to the standard track map, which is quite small and over on the left hand side of the screen, and just having the track map up on the top right hand corner just feels a little bit less intrusive. Now, down in the middle of the screen, just above the in-car cockpit display, there is an additional element here that is showing my driving inputs. It's got my clutch, my brake and my throttle input, as well as the gear, steering input and the speed that I'm doing in kilometers an hour. There's also quite usefully a histogram graph there showing my brake and throttle traces. Very, very useful for those who are watching me race. They're able to see my technique and try and learn something from that. And it's also positioned in such a way that it's not impeding my view of the circuit ahead, but it's close enough in my field of vision that I can take note of my own inputs coming through a corner. If the car gets slightly unsettled, I can usually identify whether I may have been using a little bit too much brake or trying to trail brake a little bit too hard, and kind of identify what it was that I did wrong, that slight little mistake, and try to rectify that next time round. Now, obviously, this is all stuff that you can see on the screen, but I can actually see a lot more because I stream and record in a 16:9 aspect ratio. However, I play in a 21:9 aspect ratio. So I see this. And as you can see, not only do I see a lot more of the game environment in and around the cockpit of the car, but there's also additional elements off the sides of the screen that I have tucked over there that I can use and reference against myself. So let's start up in the top left hand corner where we have a more detailed leaderboard. Now, obviously, we can see the 3 car classes that are involved in this multi-class race there. We've got the hypercars at the top, the LMP2s, and then us in the GT3s. I can see how many people are in each of those car classes. I can see the top 3 within each of those car classes. And then for the car class that I'm in, I can see the 10 cars that were in front of me and the 10 cars that are behind me. For each entry, going from left to right, we can see their position, the car class that they're in, and the driver's name. In the yellow box is indicated the lap that that driver last pitted on, and then alongside that is their time in the pit lane. That is from pit entry to pit exit, so it includes the time traversing through the pit lane and then the stop itself. It allows me to see important information as to who's had a shorter stop because they haven't changed tyres, or who's had a longer stop because they've had to take more fuel on or repair damage, all that sort of thing, and kind of helps paint a little bit of a picture in and around the stops and the strategies as to what other people are doing. Next to the right of that, we have the delta between each of the individual positions, and then alongside that we have the gap to the race leader for each position. We then have the fastest lap time and the previous or last lap time for each individual driver. If there's nothing in the last lap time column, then that means that they invalidated their laps by exceeding track limits. And then the final column is the NRG percentage. Yes, some of this information is a duplication of what you get on the standard in-game HUD leaderboard. However, it allows me to see a lot more people in front and behind me, a lot further than what the in-game HUD provides, as well as additional information that doesn't get provided on that at all. It's very, very useful for those longer endurance races where people are making pit stops, as obviously I'm able to keep a better eye on them, keep an eye on what their lap times actually are, and kind of figure out where we're going to be coming out in relation to each other once the pit stop phase is over, as well as actually kind of identifying what sort of work they've done in the car in the pit stop, and just trying to get a better overall race picture. Over on the right hand side of the screen there are two more Racelab's elements. Up in the top right hand corner we do have a weather element up here showing the track temperature, air temperature, track wetness, and then another weather forecaster. Kind of a duplication of what we see with Tiny Pedal, but having the two kind of running alongside each other is quite useful because the weather conditions and forecasting isn't 100% accurate due to the randomness of the weather in Le Mans Ultimate. So having the two to try and work out a bit of an average between is quite useful in trying to figure out whether rain will actually come, or the likelihood of rain coming and when it will roughly be coming, or if it's already raining, when it's going to start drying up. And then down in the bottom right hand corner we have a fuel calculator which has a whole host of information inside it, as you can see. The main things that are most useful with this fuel calculator are the two boxes down at the bottom in the green highlights, the time until empty and the laps until empty. The time until empty is showcasing basically how long it's going to be before I'm going to need to make a pit stop, and then the laps until empty is doing the same thing, just in laps rather than time. That information is provided in the white numbers, however the coloured numbers alongside that are currently indicated red are indicating whether I have enough fuel on board to make it to the end of the race with the current fuel load. Red being in the case that I don't have enough fuel and I'm going to need to pit again, or I'm going to need to fuel save, and then green if I have plenty of fuel and will make it to the end without having to make another pit stop. As you can see at the moment it's indicating minus 2.8 laps, so currently in this race I'm going to have to fuel save another 2 to 3 laps or make another splash and dash in order to make it to the finish. As you can see, there is other additional information here in the fuel calculator box, however I don't really pay too much attention to it. One of the downsides to this fuel calculator though is it doesn't take into account NRG, it's purely fuel only. Still, it does give you a bit of a rough indicator as to how much NRG you are going to need to use, because providing you've got your fuel ratio correct, the difference in the amount of laps between your fuel and NRG should be pretty much minimal. As you can see, both apps are pretty useful in providing additional information that you don't get from the game itself. There's only one thing to keep in mind though, is don't go with too much information. It's very easy to overload yourself with too many UI elements, distracting you from the actual job of focusing on your driving and your racing. So when you start using these apps, don't get carried away with having too many elements available and on screen at any one time. So that covers the tools that I use in race. However, there are some that I use once the race or event has actually finished. Obviously, looking at the results and looking at the replay are quite vital, useful tools. I'll also go back to YouTube again and double check to see what other people have done in their races, if they've live streamed or produced a video from it and I've been in the same race. I go back and watch their videos as well just to see what their approach was, how their race kind of unfolded, see if there's anything that I can pick up from that. But this tool here, the RF2 Log Analyzer, will show even more detail than what you can get from the replays and those final result pages. So I'll leave a link to this down in the description below. It will take you to this forum post here. Just click this link, it will open up this page here. You can then download it, follow the install and running instructions here, and it will then take you to this sort of page here. Hit refresh and it'll bring up all your latest sessions that you've participated in, from the races, the qualifying session and all the practice sessions that you've done. In here is plenty of information that you can obviously digest about the actual race itself, but looking through these various different tabs, you can go ahead and take a look at the sectors to see where you are in relation to other people within the same car class as you. The car class that I'm in is indicated by green, and as you can see, I was off a little bit in the first sector, fastest in the middle sector, and then quickest in the second sector for qualifying session. You can then see stuff, various different pages as you can go through here. But most importantly, and one thing that's very, very useful, is the fuel and tyres page, where you can see the amount of tyre wear that you are getting on average per lap and kind of distance information, and if you scroll down, the average fuel consumption per lap as well. This has been a great indicator for me in the past as to whether I've been fuel saving appropriately, whether I've been wearing the tyres too hard or too aggressively in comparison to other drivers. I therefore know that I need to either work on the setup or my driving a little bit more, just to try and reduce the amount of tyre wear that I'm using per lap. So very, very useful app to take a look at after you've done your race to then see what you can do for the next time. So yeah, there have been a number of different tools that have helped me improve my lap times, and hopefully they will improve yours as well. If you have any other tools or apps that you would recommend, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And of course, do let us know if any of these apps actually help you improve on your lap times as well. Until the next time though, have fun, stay safe, take care.